6, 5, 2.
That was so good, man.
I really like that movie.
It was way better than I expected it to be, which is always fun.
I'm so excited to talk about this movie.
It exceeds your expectations.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to the FilmWheel podcast, where two dumb dads, Chris and Joel, go inside that building right there. We watch a movie. We come right out here. We hit record. We haven't said anything to each other yet. We don't actually know, besides maybe our body language walking out to the car, if we like the movie or not. That's
we do.
the whole fun. So we just saw a movie. What was the movie, Joel?
The movie was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
We're at Alamo Draft House in Richardson, Texas, which is like 10 miles north of Dallas.
Not sponsored yet, but we haven't mentioned Alamo every time.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I don't know.
Honestly,
I don't know where to start. I got so many things to talk about, and I feel like I'm not going to remember nearly all of them.
it was pretty dense. Like, I feel like that's a movie
Really dense.
that we could talk about for like a couple hours, honestly. I don't think we'll do that, but right off the top, very good. Very, very good.
Right off the top.
A week ago, when we bought the tickets, or we talked about coming to see this movie, I had it like 5 out of 10 level of like expectations. Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Then last night, Marissa and I, shout out to Marissa, the wife, we watched the previous movie it was a trilogy. And then this was the fourth movie, which also coming into it, I was like, why are they doing a fourth movie here?
Now, what was that one called?
That was...
I get so confused with
All
these
right,
titles.
let me try to get this right. It was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
That was James Franco.
Yep.
Okay.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
I don't know what happened in that movie.
I remember liking it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, same.
And then War of the Planet of the Apes. And that's the one we watched actually last night.
Yeah.
And
I remember that one better than I remember any of the rest of them.
that was really
I'll give you
good.
that.
So
Well, let's rewind.
kind of got hyped up. Yeah. So lay out the movie here.
Well, I want to go back further since we're talking about
far?
the Planet of the Apes
How far?
franchise.
Oh, back to the 60s?
Back to the OG with Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
So, what is your history with that movie,
Okay.
if any?
Not a lot. And I honestly, I was thinking during this movie, have I seen that all the way through? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So tell me, you're the old guy in this conversation.
I'm the old guy.
You can always go back a little bit further than I can. Charlton Heston, in that movie, the big reveal that everybody remembers, the iconic reveal of the Empire State Building, and his realization.
It was the
was he like a
Statue of
time
Liberty. It was the Statue
traveler?
of Liberty. Okay, so
Oh, did I say Empire State Building?
you did.
I don't know why I said that.
That's
Whatever.
okay. I mean, it's also iconic.
But he didn't know how long had passed. But why? Was he a time traveler?
Okay, so I also have not seen it.
Uh-oh.
But that said,
Okay.
oh, I've kind of. So I'll just give you the backstory. I was a kid. I don't even remember how old. Like 11 or something. And I was sleeping in the basement of my sister's house. My older sister, who's way older than me. And I was like, I'm tired, and there's a TV down here. So I turned it on, and I'm
As
like,
one does.
I'm like, ooh, cool, interesting. Charlton Heston in a movie about outer space. They're on a spaceship.
Oh,
and so I don't know if they got. I genuinely don't know. I've never watched the movie. I haven't done the research
pretty fascinating.
or whatever. But there was a crew. I think they got, if it was a wormhole or something or other, but they were contemporary of their time.
Yeah.
And somehow they got shot forward in time. I think, again, if I'm completely wrong, I'm completely wrong.
Maybe they were in like a cryo sleep or something. A long time passed, and they didn't know how much time.
They land on Earth, and then they're like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah.
But you still don't quite know, like, are they on an alien planet of apes? Like, they don't, the big reveal is at the very end. Oh, it's
Right,
Earth.
yeah.
Oh, it's in the distant
very
future.
end. So you went the whole movie not really knowing.
Not really knowing.
Which is kind of fun.
I mean, I assume there are some hints and clues. And
Probably to go back and look at
depending
it.
on the writing. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's from the late 60s?
I don't want to interrupt you, but we are in a car right now.
Mhm.
I'm feeling a lot of wind on my face. I'm going to introduce some
you're worried
natural
about-
sounds into the podcast. No, don't touch yours. Just mine.
Okay.
I think the wind is coming this direction.
Okay.
So if you're listening, there's some car sounds for you. Okay, back into it.
But yeah, that's it. So
Yeah.
that's my history with the OG franchise. There's
Yeah.
a movie in like 2001.
The
with
Mark Wahlberg. Yeah.
which wasn't good at all.
Yeah, that
So,
was-
not memorable.
I remember
in the
seeing it as a
slightest.
kid and like kind of having fun with it, but
Yeah.
they obviously made one and we're done.
You
with
can
that.
only get so far with people in ape suits. You know,
Yeah.
you can't.
Wait, the one in the with Mark Wahlberg. That wasn't ape suits.
It had to have been. It was like 2001. They weren't CG
but
apes.
I don't remember that.
No. They were, I mean, I'm sure there was some rudimentary CG that was like, I mean, it was...
It had to have something.
Lord of the Rings era, but...
Yeah. So, okay, the original, really cool concept. Like, if you look back at that, science fiction, fantasy, like a little bit of like,
socio-commentary.
Social commentary, introspective look at like who we are, which is all wrapped up in, there's a lot actually wrapped up in this story, which is kind of fun.
Sure is, cowboy.
And then, so that movie's iconic. That was the only one?
No, there were some
No, but like
trailers
of the original era.
No, there were
movies.
more.
There were more?
Yeah,
Not
definitely.
with Charlton Heston, though, right?
I don't know. He is a big star, so probably not.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know any of the rest of those, so there were more. And then there was one in 2001. And then there was sometime had passed 15 years or so.
There may have been more.
Maybe 2013? I think that's the newest
James Franco
version. Kicked off
Franco and Caesar.
to James Franco. And not just James Franco, but Andy Serkis was
with Caesar
in the second and third one when he was a little bit more grown up.
Okay.
And watching that was one of the, when we watched that movie last night, the third movie, this is the fourth movie, I was like, oh, okay, Andy Serkis is not going to be in this one. My expectations are a little bit lower because he was really good. Like, obviously, he's really good at motion capture, facial expression, and acting and stuff.
Yeah. He's like the guy. He's like the go-to.
He's the only guy you cast. Like, you need to put.
Apparently.
and I realized why. I was watching it last night. His eyes. It's not like you would think. Okay.
Oh, the amount of expression in his eyes?
because he was Gollum. It's the way he moves and stuff.
He does have insanely expressive eyes and face in general.
But it's not just expressive. It's like there's belief in his eyes, because when you're filming all this stuff, there's nothing around you.
Sure.
You have to like believe in the I guess the capabilities of the designers and
I guess.
3D people. But his eyes are really like, expressive, I guess.
I was asking myself the question while watching this movie, because the apes are fully CG.
Yeah.
I assume there's a lot of motion capture. There's probably also just some dropped in like previous logged motion capture from other projects for like larger scenes and groups of apes moving across a prairie. It's not like, let's get a bunch of humans to amble across the prairie so we capture them. Like, that stuff's done.
It's a blend.
It's in the bank.
Probably like the top part, like motion capture of humans for like the torso and up, because the arms are pretty similar.
Yeah,
from apes to humans.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a ton of motion cap like ape data.
Yeah,
they've been doing. Assuming PETA isn't super against putting.
Well, maybe they want to. I don't know. Maybe they're making money
dots on apes,
which is kind of terrifying. If you
exactly. You get to live in the really nice ape house if you let us do some motion capture. You get a raise.
But man,
12 bananas.
We're kind of hinting at it, but like the motion capture and the visuals, I think this is Weta, who is probably the best. Like, they played a trailer for the Disney new Lion King movie coming out.
Sure did.
That compared to this is like totally different.
Yeah, it's like a big
worlds. Oh man,
sorry.
Oh, hey,
keep it family friendly.
Clean show. We can't talk about butts.
No, but what I was gonna say is, like, when I was watching it, I was like, I was trying to parse the scenes, because sometimes, like, are we looking at a completely CG scene? The scenery, the characters, absolutely everything. When is it actually shot? Was any of it shot? Did they go to the jungle for anything?
I think
Did they
first time
build sets for anything?
That's a good question.
Because
it's so good, you can't tell.
It's gotten so good. And also, the funny thing I was thinking was, because we saw Godzilla, and which was beautiful, in
a different way,
and things were really well done in Godzilla. I was just thinking about the special effects people who worked on Godzilla versus this movie.
Yeah.
I can imagine being a Godzilla person, and coming and seeing this movie and just being like,
oh,
why couldn't I do that instead?
Oh, so that's
we
thought we were doing a good job, and then there's this whole other level.
Well, no, even I would say from a craft standpoint, it's not that this was that much better, although maybe it is. I don't know, but
it's
the story is so much more compelling, and the movie was so much better.
There was a plot here. That's the main difference.
I would be so much more satisfied to throw my heart and soul as one of these professionals into my work if the final product. This coming from, you and I both worked for someone who didn't really care about story or
Right.
depth. It was just...
Yeah, you just have to have design and stuff, so let's throw it in.
Anyway, that's side story.
But, okay, so the first time that I realized something was real, do you know what scene it was?
With the human?
It was when the humans
Human.
show what did the apes called
The
them?
zebras.
With the zebras, they
Horses
called
and
them
stripes.
the tribe or something like that. I don't know, but they were running
herd.
They called them a herd.
Yeah.
We are the herd now.
Yes, we are the herd.
Man, but
least that's
they
what
were
I heard.
running through the water and falling, and that was real, I think, because you could film that.
Yeah.
There's 30, 40 humans splashing around and stuff, and the water felt like extra real in a way.
Sure.
And that was the first time I was like, okay, I think they filmed that.
So your assumption is that everything else, I mean, it might as well be like Toy Story. Everything else is just CG.
Because, well, if you go back
wall to wall.
you go back 5-10 years ago, you had to film like landscapes and make it feel real.
Yeah.
You don't even need to do that anymore.
Not really.
So I don't know. I don't know what was real.
I don't know how, like, the technological achievement is so far beyond the little bit that I've scratched.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do this stuff anymore. Like,
Okay.
I know, there's the volume. I understand the volume, but that's when you're shooting people and practical effects inside of a real. Anyway.
Well, let's go back just a little bit, can
Sure.
we?
Thank you.
Okay, the original movie, 2001, the trilogy. So the trilogy ends,
Yeah.
and then
Caesar-
this is where this movie kicks
Spoiler
off.
alert, Caesar dies. And
We're into spoilers now.
Yeah.
Caesar dies after. Well, so we can go into that movie in a second, but this movie takes place, I think, 150 years. I read that somewhere. I don't know if they actually mentioned that. in the
Many
movie.
generations later.
Much time had passed. So in the future, where the humans are mute, which was established in the earlier movies, where there was a virus which killed a lot of people, and the virus came back around and removed another layer of our humanity, so made people mute and I think dumber. So like not even on the same level. It's not that just we couldn't talk, we were like dumb. So the roles had reversed with apes. And then there just aren't very many humans in this future. So it's like this movie starts off with the apes having a chance to build a civilization. So whole new, I think from a storytelling perspective, it's like it's tied to those movies. It was kind of freed up to do whatever it wanted, which maybe helped it.
Certainly. I mean, the DNA is definitely there, which we'll get into as well. The Caesar lore, religion.
There was a lot of lore from those original movies, and then there's a lot of stuff wrapped into it I'm kind of excited to talk about.
Me too.
There's biblical lore wrapped up into it. There's historical lore with a lot of like Roman history and things. So I don't know where to start.
I don't really either, man. Okay, well maybe we can go kind of like semi-chronologically.
Yeah.
And then as we hit topics, that might be a good way to organize it at least. Okay, so we start out with the clan.
Yeah.
In their own little kind of self-contained bubble. It seems like they were a little oblivious. Like they had a lot of time to settle, to develop a peaceful society.
They were totally like
all of these things.
They knew of humans, but
Barely. And they didn't know what to
little.
call them.
Yeah, they had
echoes, which
echoes.
I was trying to figure out why they called them echoes.
They didn't establish that. I mean, you could guess. Like I could.
I mean, it could be anything. Like.
Yeah, they probably should have made some mention of why they call them echoes, but it could be like some sort of like civilizational echo. Humans are, like an echo of something in the past.
Maybe they kind of resemble us, but like only distantly, like an echo. That's what I was thinking.
Like I guess
a shadow.
now
I echo my shadow.
We're so smart. We might look at apes and consider them like an echo of us. So maybe it's flipped.
But
around.
I have a tie-in.
Okay, go.
So fun village clan, happy times with birds. And like, so did you see Avatar, the original Avatar? Blue people, not Airbender.
Everybody saw. What do you mean? The
Blue
cartoon?
people, not Airbender.
Oh yeah, everybody saw Avatar.
No, a lot of people didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
It made $17 billion.
Okay, so you saw Avatar.
I saw it. Yeah.
You remember it.
Well,
Pretty well, relatively well. Okay,
enough.
So
Yeah.
there was
Kind
a
of
lot.
forgettable story.
There was, and this might just be something this just might be like native tribal theme stuff, but the like Vision Quest.
Yeah.
So they're climbing to get the egg, and the purpose of the egg is to bond with the egg, so that then you can have your falcon eagle.
Yeah, it's like a coming of age kind of thing.
Which is like it's like a theme in native narratives.
Right.
Avatar, incredibly similar. So they had to climb up high, and they had to find
to get a banshee, right? Is that what it was?
They had a name for it.
Ekron.
Ekron. Hey, I was about to say it, and then my confidence dropped. I was like,
no,
I'm going to get it wrong.
If there's a dumb name in the movie, I'll remember it.
You remember?
I don't know why.
Yeah, and then they have to bond with it, and there's a whole like you have to find the right one, and they said that in this movie as well. They're because she was like, the egg will speak to you. You know, that the right egg will speak to you.
I didn't pick up on that the eggs are the eagles that they tame.
And then they were supposed to have like the next day they were going to have the bonding ceremony, which I would assume they do something to kind of bond the egg with the ape so that they can then be their master. Then they can be a bird master.
Well, their parent actually, they called the birds their sons. I think in a weird. That was kind of weird.
He was. That was his name,
bird
or something.
I don't something strange like that. But
I heard him call him something. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting connection, and that was cool. I liked that component of world building that was like, these are isolated, peaceful people, which is kind of a typical tribal narrative, and then you have the more imperialist, warring tribal, component that comes in and disrupts your noble savage peace.
Good setup for the bad guys in this movie are another tribe with a different set of ideas that are they are imperial. They have a goal, and it's more on the side of humanity that is just greedy and looking for,
as a metaphor, of
gain. Where the ends justify the means. So they enslave people to build a kingdom just for worldly gain, I guess.
So what did you so Noah, which we'll get to Noah.
Yeah, we should.
I loved that.
And I'm going to add to it. Just wait.
Nice.
Yeah.
When he was trying to, after the attack, before the attack, he went out looking for the human.
Yeah, because the human stole something from him, I think.
Yeah, the blanket, but then she left
it twice. She popped in. She
came again when he was with Lawrence Fishburne. Taka.
Well, we haven't checked that, but I'm pretty sure you're right. It was Lawrence Fishburne.
Anyway, so he goes out looking. I think he was looking for the Echo, the human, and we saw like lots of chaos and lots of carnage. Did you think it was humans initially that had done all that, as opposed to apes?
Yes. Which is a tie back to the third movie, where you get to the end and there's a.
Do you want to pause, or
should we take an edit point?
Sure. Edit.
Okay.
Or you can. Okay, that's fine.
We'll just.
From its recording.
Yeah, you want to do it?
Space Ghost. We did make sure audio is going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tested a second ago. Let's go! Okay, we're back.
Had a slight family emergency. Everything is resolved. Everything's fine. So
things pop up, and when you have the world's first mobile podcast recording studio, you just pick a different parking lot.
We did start that.
I think we're the first.
Yeah, we're like the Eli Whitney of.
I like to think we're the Henry Ford. Eli Whitney created the peanut, I think.
No, cotton gin.
Okay, whatever.
Okay.
You had a thought. You had a thought that we were going on. So I think.
Okay, so we wanted to talk about the ruin. We wanted to talk about the ruins of civilization and these sort of post-apocalyptic landscapes.
I had so much fun when it was a great movie. My one, I think, until we got into like the second act, my one kind of knock on the visuals were that the scenes weren't. There was no like beautiful wide landscape scene, even though we were in nature.
Do you want to put that window up?
I think
actually,
it's too loud.
No, it's coming this way this time. I'm just concerned about the wind noise.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay.
Next.
That does sound better. Well, that truck also moved. See you, truck.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, we're in a car. Yeah. So, I thought the landscapes were a little like, they were just okay until we got to the civilizational ruins to see like the monkeys. I think because that introduces apes. So sorry for any of our ape friends watching.
No, they're literally different animals. But anyway,
they are very different animals. That was a stupid thing I said.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
We'll let it slide.
But so I think that's the fun part of the original 3 movies is that you've got these smart apes interacting with human world and the kind of contrasting things, and then you get that again with the civilizational ruin. Anytime the video games and movies go there, I always love it. You get a phone call again?
It's a text.
Okay.
I'm paranoid now. Okay.
So what do you think?
Yeah. So one thing that I liked about it a lot is a lot of times in these types of like post-apocalyptic where there's remains of civilization, they'll kind of focus on stuff. They'll make it a center point of a shot or an establishing shot or whatever, and big dramatic music, wide shot. Brrr, it's like, look at this. And it was super incidental in this film, which I thought was really cool. And one thing that
incidental? What's that?
Like the apes were just kind of like, they're going through like aqueduct. Like there was one place where I could tell there was like an oil pipeline or something along those lines. And it's just like, this is what they've grown up with. They're accustomed to the fact that there are remains of civilization everywhere. Maybe they don't like, especially with the clan, the climbing bird clan from the beginning, they just didn't question it. And yet you saw with those characters later on that they were kind of mystified that Echoes had built all that stuff.
Yeah,
and so
that was
I thought
fun.
It was
They were surprised.
they had lived their entire life
mean?
in and around these sorts of ruins and encountered them all the time. And yet they apparently had no lore. They had no story for where they necessarily came from, or they just assumed they came from ancient apes or old ape civilizations. I thought that was really cool. Like it just blended into the background. It was a great little piece of world building. Like I love when stuff is just is show not tell,
Yeah.
Even visually, like sometimes you can show not tell in a visual sense, and sometimes you can tell using visuals that's really, really obvious and smack you in the face. And I like the subtlety behind it. They never addressed it. They were never like, what is this? Like big shot but clonk, 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 like banging on metal.
That's true.
So I like that.
It was just kind of the terrain that they happened to live in.
Yeah, and it was the world as they knew it.
The jungle, or also, where did you think it took place? Were you trying to figure out like what that city was, or where it was kind of like
Pacific
this nebulous,
Northwest?
Yeah, maybe Portland, Seattle kind of thing.
Probably.
I don't know.
I mean, it was definitely
kind of like Top Gun.
It was
where,
definitely
you don't
west.
Really know
it was West
who
Coast
it is.
because rocks don't go up to the shore on the East Coast like that, and it was not Southern California.
Yeah,
so
it was something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think
anywhere from like Canada down to Northern California.
I don't think they wanted it to be too
Oregon.
literal, which is kind of nice. But you're right. It was just like it was interesting. It allowed you to like fill in. You felt like you were exploring it with them in a way, building the lore and the mythology of that area. And yeah, you're right. When they got to that mural where there was an echo or a human, they were like, "What do you mean the humans built this? Like, they're just dumb."
Yeah, it was like, what are these crazy primitive artworks? Like,
just
okay.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was kind of baked into the beginning of where they have to climb to get to the highest nest that was through skyscrapers, and that was kind of fun too.
Yeah.
So good world building, I would agree. I like some good world building. There's some parallels to, I guess, the original movies, but the original movies were so far in the future that had part of civilization had kind of been
60s
eroded.
Or 70s movies,
so in a way, these are still kind of, I guess, not just in a way, they are prequels still to that, which is kind of fun. You fill in that space. I like that.
You can kind of fill it in with whatever you want until they make movies about it, and then the canon is all connected. That's a canon sound.
Yeah,
good job.
That's what cannons do. They explode.
I thought it was cool. So this ties. To go back to world building, I loved the idea that we had hit the point where different cultures of apes were developing in different regions.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool, and spoilers, obviously. So when we get to the end of the film and they blow up the dam, or whatever the structure was. The seawall.
Yeah.
Which, I want to talk about what that whole space was and facility, etc. But I thought it was cool that, I guess it was Noah who was like, climb. Right. So all his clan people were climbers. Yeah. It was a big part of what they did. And
that's why they survived?
Yeah, it was second nature. They were like, let's go up. They were super, super good climbers. Like rock climbers, not just tree climbers.
Yeah. And so another good example, you're right, of showing, not telling, and not like elaborating on dialogue and stuff. That's what they did. Yeah. They kind of lived in their high homes.
High homes.
They lived up in the trees, and it allowed them to survive, kind of survival of the fittest. But it was a nice tie back to the original. Sorry, what was that subreddit called? Bird? No, it was Mudmen.
That wasn't the subreddit.
That was the subreddit.
Subreddit was Mudmen.
I don't know. It was a subreddit for
everybody
birds.
pretending to be birds.
Yeah, I remember that.
Man, that was weird.
The Mudmen will take our high homes. That's what it was. The birds called us Mudmen.
And then it was just screams.
Wow. Early Reddit was the best.
I think that was like mid Reddit.
Yeah. Let's talk about how I think the tie-ins to like the biblical storytelling with Noah being his name. I want to go back to the third movie, fill in a little bit. So
good.
Do you remember this?
It.
Okay.
You tell me.
So we watched it and we paused it like 3/4 of the way through and I looked at Marissa and I said, "This is Exodus. He's Moses."
Yeah.
It was totally
Caesar
was Moses.
Okay.
So let me tell you, he lived.
Oh, yeah, talk about Romans, but anyway, carry on.
So yeah, I think it all kind of ties in. Pretty smart. Caesar is raised by humans, so parallel, Moses, Israelite, being raised by Egyptians. So he learns the culture that I guess what you could say like the higher, more sophisticated culture. Learns
Sure.
all about civilization, but he also through that process, I think, admires them and can kind of speak their language.
Okay.
So he gets outside the framework of his people
Yeah.
being a little bit close-minded, and then
But he's essentially a prophet, like Moses was. Like
he knows of a better path for his tribe to take.
Okay.
And then there's this whole thing. There's more that I'm going to forget, but like by the end of the movie, he leads his people through the desert
Yeah.
to the promised land.
Yeah.
It wasn't 40 days or 40 years. It was more like 40 seconds at the end of the movie, but still there was a lot of like that in there. And then we get to this movie, it's a little bit more overt.
Yeah.
Noah. They called him Noah.
Yeah.
But it was fun, because they're not to just ram through it, but like there was a lot of flood. there was a flood
certainly
scene.
flood stuff.
I thought the birds were like a little bit of like a call out to the dove, that Noah released and
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, that's good.
saving his family. Also the scene you were talking about with the seawall, giant ship,
Yeah,
kind of wrecked there.
Yeah.
Kind of reminiscent of the Ark.
it was. Yeah, I like all the super literal Noah flood parallels, and et cetera. Arc. That's good stuff. Like I saw the tie-in as, like Noah, Moses. They're all and as far as again to get into like biblical theology.
It's okay. Everybody knows these stories to some extent.
We say everybody. That's a bold claim, but anyway,
A
regardless,
lot of folks.
Noah and Moses are both shadows. They're precursors to Christ, like leading his people out of bondage into freedom. And similarly, Noah in this film the same way. He's kind of taking people from a time before to a time after. And of course, there's massive amounts of flooding water, purifying involved in the process. So
Purifying of removing the old ways of the humans. But also, like in the Noah story, the flood purified the evil people, the evil doers who were going, like, living a life against, God. So you could say in this story, like the apes representing a different style of civilization, where that's the wrong way to do it. We're not just going to like warpath our way through everything. Very similar. So I don't think it wasn't as much like where Caesar was a Noah archetype and like that's what the foundation of the story was based on. Moses. This was a little bit looser, but there were a lot of like callbacks to it, which
I mean, it was definitely intentional. I don't think it was. It wasn't like a straight match.
Yeah.
And
then
Caesar parallel was a little better, but anyway.
Next, I think the Caesar parallel was better. It was baked in a little bit better, but still, like I thought it was.
That's good. Fun. I definitely didn't consider that the one time I watched War.
That was War.
War of the Planet of the Apes.
I think it was probably set up in Dawn. Rise. I don't know.
Which one came first?
One of the prepositional phrases.
Dawn,
of the
Rise, War. Or
Dawn, Rise, War.
Okay.
Yeah. And the title scene in the last movie, like, puts the text up on the screen and they're like, Rise. And then they leave it. All the other text fades away and it stays. And then Dawn. They were very proud of their prepositional phrases.
Did they I mean, of the Planet of the Apes is a prepositional phrase.
Yeah. One of them was for. Like it was War for the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
They changed on that one.
Gotcha.
Whatever. So, yeah, when we get into this movie, the antagonist, do you remember his name? Scary crown guy wearing a crown?
Caesar?
No.
Proximus?
Proximus. Caesar. So then we move into the Caesar archetype, who is calling back to the Caesar.
Yeah.
In Roman history, Caesars wanted to call back to the actual Caesar, and they took his name.
Yeah.
Many, many times. So he did that.
Yeah.
And then, but he wanted to learn all about Roman history, which was like was so fascinating.
Enter Academy Award winner William H. Macy, who I had no idea was in this movie.
Surprising interest.
Just comes walking out of the shadows.
Yeah. It was fun. Didn't get a lot of William H. Macy, but it was
really, really short.
Brief scenes, yeah.
Brief role, like pretty.
But it was nice.
Not fleshed out, very one-sided. Not much character depth, just kind of there to...
Yeah, he had made a choice.
Just kind of there to be there, which I thought was super fascinating.
He had made a choice that he picked a side. He picked what he thought was the winning side. Humans were done. I'm going to get in with the apes and help them build a new civilization.
We've got a good thing going here.
It's a nice life here in this ship.
Yeah.
This rusting ship. I mean, I
get
guess.
to read all these books.
He had a pretty nice setup.
They're not, throwing us on the ground and pounding on us, which looks painful.
Yeah.
Happened a bunch of times in this movie.
We got to talk about...
well, I'm not done with Roman history.
Okay, when we're done with Roman history, I want to talk about how terrifying apes are. they're just
super scary.
Super scary. Okay, so finish the Roman thing.
So Caesar, I don't know. Like, I don't know Roman history as well as I should.
There's a lot to it, so it's okay.
There is an awful lot to it, but from what I understand, Julius Caesar.
Yep, he was
a general, had an enormous amount of battlefield success. Comes back to Rome,
across the Rubicon.
Is lauded as this great hero, and then it was a tense time between the democratic Rome and this military general, to where the public was very much split as to whether or not they wanted an emperor or they wanted the Senate to continue.
There was
to basically rule Rome.
The original Rome was the Republic.
Yeah.
So it was a representative democracy, and then Caesar came back and essentially represented something else, like a more populist government, and it was a complete shift, which didn't happen immediately when they killed him, but he was voted essentially emperor of Rome, prefect, I don't know, whatever they called it. Pretty much. So he was the first emperor, and then you got a whole different Rome after that.
But it wasn't the people's choice. It was really just limited to the Senate to kill him, to murder him, and to take back power.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Augustus, who I think came next, also received the title of Caesar and became emperor of Rome. I don't quite know.
We're gonna lose the lose the history buffs.
Maybe,
but we're close. I mean, I think you're right. Yes, it was either Caesar Augustus, and then there was 4 or 5 other Caesars throughout history.
But I think the interesting tie back to this film was that this Proximus Caesar, hearing this history, like, it was a commentary about, like,
probably
militaristic power and its potential to be kind of a disruptor to democracy.
Yeah.
I think that was something that they were trying to say.
And picking and choosing what you want out of history, I think, is what they were saying too, because they were calling back so much to Caesar, like, we're gonna, as if he were a prophet, but they weren't giving the full story of who Caesar, the original Caesar, was. They were just picking the militaristic.
An easy thing to latch onto, which is I think a great transition to talk about the other, sort of religious themes behind, or maybe you're already done, because I got more.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, I think the Christ narrative, like, all of, at least, Moses, well, Caesar is not a Christ, but Noah is. But just the idea of latching on to, like, religiosity and using it to justify things like genocide, like mass violence, like, conquering and subjugating people. There were definite slave contexts there as well. Like, when we first go into the, the little burgeoning empire of the violent apes.
The kingdom. Yeah.
Is that what did he say? Kingdom?
Title.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Well, they did the thing.
He did say my kingdom.
This is the kingdom.
He didn't say empire.
Title. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I just think there were a lot of interesting little biblical touches there, but I think that prevailing theme, like, especially when we see the prophet in the wilderness ape. I don't remember his name.
I don't know, but he was great. Like, I really thought it was Lawrence Fishburne.
It wasn't Lawrence Fishburne.
But whoever it was
Sounded a lot like him.
Sounded a lot like him. He said
But
that.
he had a lot of power, a lot of gravitas. But yeah, the separation there I thought was fascinating because we see that, throughout the history of
Christian.
Christian. Like
More to the story.
it's easy it's easy to reflect on the Christian ties because that's the background that we both come from. But you have people who look at who use Christianity to justify obviously throughout history we had the Crusades and militaristic conquering empirical initiatives, and still to this day we have people who just blindly justify war and violence, etc., in the name of a Christian nation. Not going to get into that. Regardless,
well, you can flip
have
it the other way too. People, not just that. People can use a limited understanding based on their worldview and cherry pick through just about any religion to justify whatever they want. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what they were doing in this story.
Yeah. I think so too.
Smart.
It was just a really clear call out. I mean, especially when, again, lone ape in the wilderness is no, they use Caesar to justify all sorts of brutality and violence, etc. So it's just it's fascinating. It's interesting.
It was definitely a
movie. They were
movie,
going for some commentary
with a lot to say. But I think it handled those moments in a very, what would you say, nonpartisan kind of way?
Tasteful.
A tasteful way.
Yeah.
That I think, a lot of people, it was just a good message, good solid message that was well done.
Well, just that, anything can be twisted and contorted.
Yeah.
Anything powerful, anything substantial.
And you know what? That's what good sci-fi does. It allows you, it's a vehicle to get outside literal storytelling with humans in it, go to a different place to talk about a social issue that's happening at the time. If you go back and look at a lot of early sci-fi like Star Trek, all of the episodes were that.
Yeah,
commentary on social issues of the day, but done in a way that's
Star Trek.
I love Star Trek.
I've seen 4 episodes of Star Trek.
Oh, you're missing out on go watch some Next Generation.
Trust me, I believe you. I just haven't gone down that.
But I think this did that really well, where a lot. I lost my train of thought. But
that's okay.
It was just removed enough from normal. Oh my gosh, I lost.
Go find it. It's in Target.
I'll go buy my.
We're outside of Target,
thoughts.
by the way.
We are now. Yeah, not sponsored. Man,
soon though.
That's such a good point there. It's gone forever.
It'll come back.
It's gone forever. Let's talk about how scary apes are.
What else we got? Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. So, when in the original trilogy from 10 years ago,
which is not the original, but
okay, it's not from the last set of movies. Apes are, humans. I think we are more intelligent, clearly, but there are trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
We lost our fur, we lost our strength. We lost the ability for our toes to be fingers and hands, which they we're talking about in the movie.
Although, well, continue. I have a note on that one.
There's this deep-seated fear about things that look so similar to us, like chimpanzees. You see them the only place we see them is a zoo, which that movie has a point to make there.
It does.
But when they are as intelligent as us, they become a superior species
because of their strength and agility, and
they're maybe whether they're as smart or smarter, they are as a complete package better because they're the same intelligence as us, but physically they are well adapted to a lot of things.
Yeah,
kind of makes you realize we're not as there's an insecurity about us that's expressed through a lot of the storytelling in all of these movies. What is humanity? What are we good at? Why do we deserve to be at the top? Maybe that is expressed through this movie. And plus, it just makes for some really good action scenes when you've got gorillas blasting through Hulk, through.
They are
through some scenes.
Being 3 to 10 times as strong as humans. Is a whole thing. So I had to go use the facilities when they started talking about evolution. What do you remember? What the point was of that conversation? Yeah, you had
I think I missed the setup for that, which you saw. I don't know. I think they were just getting into a little bit of that. Yeah, actually. So about themselves, because in this movie they are at the top of the food chain. So maybe now the apes have a little bit of this same what would you say, like civilizational insecurity or something, you know, because when you're intelligent enough, you're aware of your own mortality.
Sure.
When you're then in a civilization, you are aware of the fragility of that civilization, that it could come to an end.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire, that's why I think people are so fascinated with the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And the fall of the Roman Empire. You realize that all of this could fall apart. I think what they were getting at is, okay, now we're at the top.
Mm-hmm.
We have this quest for knowledge and the need to justify their own existence, or the need to remain on top, because they are scared of humans, and
Sure.
humans getting, you know, that intelligence in the same way that it was just flipping the script a bit, which I thought was kind of a part of the story.
So from my understanding of evolution, human evolution, you know, at one point when we diverged from our common ancestor, we were the same intelligence as lower apes.
Mm-hmm.
But we were given we adapted to have a physiological advantage from walking upright, which I thought was fascinating. So we lost the, you know, flexibility and use of our
Because
of our legs and feet, because
chimps can't walk as long upright as we can.
Exactly. And we can walk longer upright than anything else on Earth, still to this day.
Yeah.
So, you know, we evolved like long before we evolved an intelligence advantage and the use of tools and all of that, which again, tie-in, I want to go back to, because there's a 2001 Space Odyssey tie-in there as well. We'll
Yeah,
get back to
I
that.
caught that.
But long before we had an intelligence and tools advantage, we developed a physical advantage to be able to cover long distances, because the efficiency of walking upright beats any other animal on the entire planet. And so groups of humans could hunt any animal across plains, because Homo sapiens evolved in Africa, and there's a lot more plains and desert than there are jungles. And so, you know, apes would lose their advantage on plains and in deserts, especially in large groups, very, very quickly. So,
But we also became weaker, and I think had to adapt.
yeah.
You know, like we don't have fur, you know, so if you move to a cold climate, you have to adapt and find a way to clothe yourself.
Sure, but
You
using tools overcame those disadvantages very quickly. Like as soon as you can make clothes, it's significantly less important to have.
Well, we had a common and we're getting very off topic from the movie, but like I was thinking about.
Well, they literally addressed it, which I think was intentional.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I was thinking about like Have you like done any research into Neanderthals?
How we just absorbed them.
Yeah, but like they were much stronger than us, and we coexisted. They were like they could bench press like 500 pounds. So I mean, they were 2 or 3 times as strong as a human was. And
Homo
chimps,
sapien.
Yeah, and chimps are too.
They were humans. They were humanoids.
But they were like different enough.
Yeah.
Like they could. There's not a human alive that could beat the like arm wrestle or in a physical confrontation beat the average Neanderthal.
There's probably a few, but yeah,
Go look it up.
very few.
They were terrifying. But you know, chimps have
enormous strength.
enormous strength. They have like longer muscle fibers. Like they're
But they
muscles are stronger.
have more fast twitch, significantly more fast twitch muscle fibers,
Yeah, we
which
have
is
more
bursts of
endurance.
strength, and we have way more slow twitch fibers, which are endurance, which is why we beat everyone else evolutionarily. So, I mean, yeah, there's this a long, boring scientific.
No, people
If
love
you're
chimps.
not interested in
People love
human
chimps,
evolution and biology, I'm sure you've tuned out by this point. But yeah, it's not something that they necessarily wanted to dive into in the film, but I think even just the casual mention of it made me chuckle.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, you can't use. Too bad you can't use your
I know.
your feet as hands. It's
But
like
there's that
it's cool, bro. I
insecurity of,
got
like,
shoes.
justifying why we're better now. You know,
Yeah.
it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like you want to watch a gorilla try to run a marathon and see how well he does. It's not going to go well.
No, that'd be kind of sad, actually. Might get a mile in. Another thing I loved, the music was very reminiscent of the old movies. You remember when they were crossing the bridge? There was that like classic Planet of the Apes, like percussive kind of sound.
Old movies, meaning
The old movies in the 60s.
Oh, the very okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of like musical callbacks to that, which I thought they did really well.
Okay. So you're familiar with the music from the old films?
Yeah. You want me to play it?
No, that's okay. I'm good. Like right now?
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
I can't actually remember it, but when I hear it, I know it.
Yeah, big drums.
Well, I mean, I think we're, as you can tell, we're feeling very positive about the movie.
It was a good movie.
What would you say maybe missed the mark?
I'm not the type to find flaws this soon after I've seen something.
Yeah.
Usually I'm just really like...
I would say it's kind of hard to... There's nothing glaring.
I still have my rose-colored glasses on.
Yeah.
You know, the more that I think about it, and especially the more I like get influenced by other people's opinions of it, that tends to kind of help me find flaws. That's the way my brain works.
Are you reading any reviews before you go watch these movies? Because I'm not.
Never.
I'm trying to stay away.
Never. Nothing.
Good.
Nothing. I did
trailers.
This
we'll watch trailers, and I think
this one was shot in 2 parts, so I will admit I looked at a couple after part 1 of this.
I did too. Well, okay. The only thing I did was I looked at...
We might as well talk about it now, because it seems to be getting decent critical reviews.
Seems like it. But I scrolled IMDb because I'm more on the side of... I kind of align with like the Rotten Tomatoes audience score more than the critic score. Yeah. IMDb is generally like in that same ballpark too.
Depends on the type of movie for me, but with this type of movie, I would tend to be more with the audience.
Yeah. And people are liking it, but there were a lot of people, I was kind of surprised. It seems kind of mixed, where there were a lot of like 3s and 4s folks out there saying
out of 10?
Out of 10, kind of saying it was a little slow and kind of boring.
Off the top.
I completely disagree. I thought the pacing was pretty good, but
I saw some people complaining about the first act, that it took a while to spin up, which I imagine they were just, like to me, I was gripped. Action scenes.
Yeah. I cared about the characters.
They were also extremely intense. The action was very, very intense. Very fast paced, very literally scary. You're gripped.
Yeah.
And I thought that they did such a beautiful job. I definitely empathized early enough with the characters to care. When they were in peril.
I was gonna do with this movie.
Yeah.
Especially with Andy Serkis not being in it, who was so good in those last ones. I'm telling you, go watch it. He was phenomenal.
I probably will have to go back and watch it now.
Right off the bat, the 3 characters we're introduced to, one being the main character, Noah. You kind of care about them, and then they're climbing things, and it's obviously perilous. You cared. You didn't want them to fall.
Did not want them to fall.
And there weren't any. There were only a couple humans.
Really wanted Noah to get that egg.
Perfect egg. And then he got
calling to him. All right, so the facility at the end. What the heck was it?
Yeah, so I thought it was going to reveal something iconic like the Statue of Liberty. And I think I looked at you and I'm like, I know what this is.
You're very wrong.
I was way off. They were on the beach. Wrong coast. It was a silo. They said
like a missile silo.
Yeah, there was one shot where they were climbing to escape the water.
Yeah, I thought
why was the water why would you build something when you open the gate? It's that far below, or maybe there's been global warming. Maybe the sea levels have risen since it was built in 150 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
So basically at the end of the movie, the main human character, Echo. What did they call her? Nova. I don't know.
Anyway. They called her Nova. Her name was May.
Yeah, May. She could talk. She was intellectually on par with the apes.
Intelligente.
Didn't want them to have.
I think she was more intelligent, honestly.
Probably more intelligent.
The apes were still kind of working their way up the old. Like Caesar was the brains. I don't know if anyone has quite hit Caesar levels of intelligence.
No, and I think from the third movie to this movie, the apes kind of dropped down a little bit because they didn't have the human civilization to learn from at the same time. They were on their own.
Sure.
So they were doing more like grunting, like chimp sounds.
Sure.
I think that kind of explains it. Whereas she was obviously part of a human clan retaining.
She seemed very contemporary.
Yes.
To modern.
She had
whatever civilization became extinct. It was only a few generations.
Yeah. So I don't know. She said at the end of the reign of humans, the government went underground, and this was one of those facilities. So there's more, which is kind of fascinating.
Which we got to see.
There's more to explore.
Little glimpse of
for these movies. I'm actually excited for more of these.
I'm super excited.
Yeah,
like the world building aspect of what humanity has kind of settled into. I'm fascinated to see what it looks like.
Yeah,
because I like that. I like that stuff, and it tends to I like it when you get glimpses of it and you get to get excited about it, and then you don't. Right now is peak excitement for what the possibilities are. And as soon as it starts to unfold, it starts to get a little less exciting.
Yeah, but once they peel back the curtain. That's on to the next writer to figure that
That's
out.
A big challenge.
But they were very reserved in not showing that hand until the end of the movie.
They were.
You only get little hint. Wait, wait a minute.
Well, I kind of like.
She's wearing better clothes.
I was actually surprised. Okay, so when bang bang bang, and she opened the door, and the hazmat suit girl took the drive from her, which I want to talk about that drive thing. Was that because the virus is still a concern?
I think they are probably very paranoid about the virus, which is also kind of interesting.
And does that mean that May and William H. Macy had an immunity, potentially, like a genetic immunity, and that's why, and their fammy,
I don't know, because they let him back in. I mean, they
let her in. Did they let her in? Because no, they didn't.
Did they not?
No, they didn't show that. She
just handed it off.
Yeah, and the woman was walking down the corridor completely alone, so she might have, like a couple airlocks, and then
So yeah, the virus must be still out there. Yeah. So humans can't just
so they're locked
back over.
Are they locked in?
Kinda. I think so.
And the ones that are out, roaming in herds are less intelligent and
those are the ones that are affected by the virus, can't speak, and are lower.
So you must have a handful of people who have like a genetic immunity or whatever.
Or they've just successfully isolated themselves in underground layers.
No, like May. And the William H. Macy dude. They're out there breathing the air, breathing the virus. So they must have some sort of...
Yeah. They didn't really... that was just another show not tell thing. Yeah. I guess you're right. It must
something
be
to speculate about.
Yeah. But for another writer to pick up on and expand and not screw this up.
So what was the drive? It came from...
military. It had to be some sort of military secret. Maybe it's some sort of because what would the humans want? You would want immunity to this, that what May has. So
but when they plugged it in, all it did was basically position the satellite or the radio antennas.
Almost like SETI is what I thought they were at with the satellites.
But the thing was that drive came from the same facility that they were at.
Yeah.
So would it have just meant that they had to pass out of their quarantine space into non-quarantine space in order to get it? How did May grab the drive?
She knew what she was looking for.
Ran it straight to the door and handed it off, and then apparently didn't go in.
Was you think that was her mission from the start?
And how did she find out?
It kind of seemed like happenstance that she got to that silo, right? Or that
she was headed there. She knew it was there. Because she said that the last human government went underground. That's where I'm going. So she knew. That's where
there was a group that she was with that was raided by Caesar, the bad Caesar guy.
Yeah, and they must have all been people who were immune.
They needed that drive.
Who had survived whatever.
I'll tell you something that's interesting. This week, my wife and I, we were watching Silo, which if you guys haven't seen, on Apple TV Plus, very good show. And in that show, not spoiler, but there's a drive in the show too, so all weird parallels with that. There was a mystery on the drive
and a silo.
As they're living in the silo,
people underground,
in a dystopian future. So kind of
maybe it's
somebody's borrowing from universe. Somebody. Yeah, that would be fascinating.
Really strange.
Yeah.
What studio made Apes? Because Silo's Apple.
Anyway. I know Weta did the design, but I don't. It's 20th Century Fox,
which is Disney now,
which is Disney.
Definitely not Apple. So
yeah, no, not the same thing. A lot of lore to explore. That rhymes.
I love me a good rhyme.
Oh man!
I feel like I had one more thing. Oh, okay, so there are more people.
There are more people. When they got the satellites up, instantly they communicated with somebody in Indiana. So
was it Indiana?
I think they said, Indiana, so good to hear from somebody else. Right away when they got their communication device up. So I'm from Indiana, trying to think what in Indiana would be something that would have some sort of military installation.
I mean,
with satellites
not that you would be privy to that information.
Oh, everybody from Indiana knows where all the stuff is. There's not very much stuff.
But I think the interesting question that begs is, if you go way back to the original, again, I apologize. I don't know if it was the 60s or 70s.
We're gonna mess some stuff up. It's okay.
But what, were there survived underground human civilizations during that timeline?
There must
does
have
it
been
persist, or is this all apocalyptic? Eventually the apes win, period, and the humans just, we genuinely don't know, because that film, from what I understand, was isolated to a pretty small group, and who knows if they were humans. So this is
interesting to think about.
Assuming the writing can stay this compelling, not that it's Shakespeare or anything, but there's potentially a lot to mine from this universe.
But I do think now that we know where this is headed, and we know how the original movies kind of netted out with that kind of nihilistic ending, like it ends. I think they should the studio should come out and say, we're maybe going a different path or something, just to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
So where there's actually some tension, you don't know, like maybe there's a chance humans have a better fate or something.
Yeah.
Because if not, it's like, what's the point of watching these movies? We're just going to watch the humans die in other ways.
It was the 60s. Because in Mad Men, Don Draper takes his son, Bobby, to see Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And they show his son's...
That's where you watched Planet of the Apes? Is that...
No, but that's one of my tiny slivers of exposure to the movie.
Yeah.
But you're saying I was Don Draper's son?
No, I'm saying like...
You're saying I was alive in the 60s?
You know when you watch something and maybe you dream about it and the thing that you watched becomes interwoven with your own brain stuff?
It's a really sweet scene though, because Don's super,
doesn't do much
rather
with his kids.
dysfunctional in a family sense. So it's a great a bonding time with his son. But they show the scene, Charlton Heston on the beach with the Statue of Liberty kind of sticking out of the sand. And then they pan to Bobby and his eyes are just so wide. And his dad, Don Draper, looks down at him and he's like, did you like it? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, you want to watch it again? And he goes,
oh, they stay in the theater.
And they just watch it again.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it must have been a pretty big cultural
made an impact
revolution.
Well, yeah,
People
I think
that was amazing.
Like we were saying, like whether it's biblical archetypes or whatever, something about this story is hitting on a lot of like things that resonate deeply within a lot of people, or else it wouldn't stick around. So not a huge fan of all the sequels that are happening right now, but this one,
I'll go. I'm actually excited about the next one now.
Keep it going. Give us a couple more of these.
I'm fascinated
and we'll be there.
What happens next?
Want to give it some honks?
No. If we decide on honk, I like honks.
I like it too. We had a comment last time. What are we gonna rate it? Steering wheels, and I gave it 11 steering wheels. I just real quick
Fall Guy got 11 steering wheels.
I want to call out the Fall Guy. I was a little too hard on it. I think now that the rose-colored glasses are off, I came out on the last podcast.
You had poop-colored glasses.
I had poop. I didn't like it. No. But now that I've sat with it for a while, I haven't actually read that many reviews, but I realized that it's not a sequel. It was. Well, it kind of is, I guess, but it's not really like
it's not original IP.
And it was fun. Yeah. So, not my favorite movie. It was too long, but I might bump my score up to like a 7 or something out of 10.
I'm keeping it at 11 steering wheels.
I give it like
11 steering wheels.
I give it
out of 60
steering wheels.
Mud pies.
So we're going honks. Are we going ridiculous, or is there a range
out of honks?
Yeah,
10 honks.
10 honks?
No, 5 honks.
5 honks is the peak.
Yeah, because you gonna do it?
I don't know. I might just make the sound. That's a semi.
That's you. So that's your score?
No, out of 5. 5 is hard. 4 is easier to give it a 4 than a 5 for some reason. I really like this movie. I think out of 5, I'm gonna give it 4 honks. There's mine. How many honks are you giving it?
I try to contextualize movies that I go see in the theater.
You know what we need to do?
By how
when we do our reviews and buckle in.
Safety first?
Yeah. Do it. Put your seatbelt on. Okay. All right. Because we're getting ready to leave. Yeah. Safety first. Give it some honks.
So you see movies in the theater and you see movies at home, and there's a different investment there.
Go see movies in the theaters.
I mean, unless you can't afford it, don't feel bad. Because it's literally ridiculously expensive to
take out a loan. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's preposterous.
Go to the theater, pay them whatever they want. $30 a ticket, it's worth it.
It's dumb how much it costs. And
really.
I remember going to like $2 movies in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
That day has long since passed. It's gone. So I will give this 4.5 honks.
Oh, we're going halves?
I am going to. I can't give it a 5, but I enjoyed watching this movie so very much. And to me, that's what I want when I go to the movie theater.
I'm not, great movie theater experience.
I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for something that I'm necessarily that's gonna stick with me for like months.
Yeah.
And sometimes movies do that to me, and I love when movies do that to me. This one's not gonna do that to me, but I enjoyed the heck out of it. And if I'm gonna pay all that ridiculous amount of money, that's what I want. from sitting in that chair and looking at that screen. And that's what I got.
If we're going halfsies, I would agree with that rating. I'll give it another half honk too, because I was not bored at all during the movie.
No.
It had great action. It's everything you want out of a blockbuster. And it made you think just enough to not feel like you wasted your time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In terms of like the
fun.
experience of the film, I did like if people talked about it being a little slow, I disagree. Like I thought I was engaged every second of that movie. I was fascinated. I was interested in the characters.
And I want to see more.
Yeah. You know, they give a decent amount of depth to these apes, and you know, I don't
really
even want to say for what it
much,
was. Like,
but good job to the animators too.
Oh my god, it was so
Goodness
beautiful.
gracious! Like the what they can do these days. Sorry, we're trying to end it, and we could talk about that for probably another 20 minutes.
Totally could,
because like daytime, nighttime, playing with light. The hair, like the way that hair. Do you remember the scene when I think it was the main character, what's his name, Noah, looks through the telescope and the light kind of glimmering on his eye.
We didn't talk about the telescope scene.
Telescope was pretty good.
Like they made a real point of that.
Well, because it relates to one of the things that makes us human is our curiosity and always wondering what's over that hill, what's over the horizon, and wanting to explore. There's downsides to that, kingdom, empire building or whatever, but really it's like wanting to explore. So when you look up at the heavens, in our earliest version of, you know, us, that they kind of ended there with human and
he took his friend back to the observatory.
That's what I think one of the things that the good aspects of being a human, curiosity, and then, you know, what Caesar kind of represented, a balance of like strength and compassion and, you know, empathy and love as a well-rounded, like Christ-like figure, was interesting. So I think that's what they were kind of getting at with the telescope.
Well, they also used it as a tool to show that May was intelligent. Because like,
they did that too.
Yeah, if you hold a cat up to a telescope and like, look, aren't you affected by this? Cat's gonna be like, what the heck are you doing?
But
so that was kind of a way for them to be like, oh wait, she like was able to kind of process that she was looking at something.
But what did he say? He said, when I saw her look through the telescope, I looked at her eyes and her. So it's all, again, like it's all about the eyes, how expressive your eyes are. There's a great chimp documentary on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it, but one of the most fascinating parts of it was they were studying what chimps are at the top of the pecking order or whatever, leading the tribe. They found that a lot of them have larger, like smaller irises and more white in their eyes, because when that happens, you can see where somebody's looking. And what you gaze upon is like by hierarchy, order, like rank order is a more important thing. And you can convey that to other chimps, and other chimps can see what a more intelligent chimp maybe is looking at and giving it priority for the rest of the group. So it's like all, again, back to what makes us human.
Sure.
Our eyes are really important and expressive and powerful. And let's,
what is thunking your truck? Is that wind?
I don't know.
Did you feel that?
I don't know. But I saw Marissa circling around. I told her if she comes out of Target to just hop in the back seat and we'll have a guest. Okay. The end.
The end.
What are we going to see next? Who knows? Tune in next time to see what we saw.
We need to see Civil War.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be a new movie.
No.
New-ish.
We settled it.
Huh?
We're not going to break the internet with our reviews.
No.
At least not yet.
Not yet.
We'll get there.
Keep it positive.
When Alamo is sponsoring us, and Target.
Yeah. That's our motto. Keep it positive. Go to the movie theater.
If you can afford it.
If you can afford it at a matinee price. I don't know.
Yeah. It's ludicrous.
It is, but it's still a good experience that I don't want to die. So movie theaters,
either.
Knock it off. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.